Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Deep Fried Draft Show. My name is Brian Bosarge. I'm your host for the evening, and tonight we're going to continue our 2021 NFL Draft Review Series. And tonight we're going to talk about the artists formerly known as the Redskins, the Washington football team, and one of my favorite draft classes. Definitely in the top five for me for sure. Just looking at who they drafted, some of the big steals I got. We're going to talk about that and more with a very special guest tonight. He is a contributor for Draft Diamonds, and he is one of the best prospect interviewers out there. Go check out his work at NFL Draft Diamonds, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He is draft guy Jimmy Williams. Man, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. I mean, it's nice that things have kind of calmed down, but I mean, I guess now these days, like people really want to know how do we do in this draft, and I don't know, man. I got some mixed opinions. So, but yeah, doing okay. I mean, the schedule's kind of calmed down a little bit because the draft is over, but then again, it's never over. So,
no, my goal is to get through the publishing the team updates on my website, and then I'm taking June off, and we're gonna come. I'll come back strong in July with getting ready for 2022. But I'm not even. I don't even want to look at any of that stuff right now. So I said in the intro there that this was one of my favorite draft classes overall. I really like what Washington did here. Miami, Carolina, Buffalo. Those were some of my favorite classes. But I really like what Washington did here in the 2021 draft.
I think they did okay. I mean, I think usually most of the players that are going to be doing well for you are going to be those top few picks. And so really for most people that those first few rounds, I mean, are these the guys that are going to contribute early? So that's kind of the feel that I have for it, because I mean, you don't normally, think about, fifth, sixth, seventh round guys really contributing right away. I mean, they're usually developmental players, maybe special teams guys, even practice squad guys. So it's really the top half there that I feel like we need to really, chat through. So
yeah, we'll definitely get in depth with those top guys, and like I said, we'll kind of skim through the day three guys. Only hit on a couple, but we're going to start with the first pick, and not many players in this draft class, at least in the eyes of the media, rose much faster than Jamin Davis, the linebacker from Kentucky. Ends up as the 19th overall pick here to Washington. Big athletic guy, can cover. Talk to me about Jamin Davis.
Well, I mean, to be quite honestly, I feel like they took Jamin Davis because Zaven Collins wasn't there anymore. If you were to ask me, I feel like that was probably going to be the guy had he been there. But I mean, obviously, Cardinals took him instead. But I'm okay with Jamin Davis. I mean, some people feel like it's a little bit of a reach, but I'm okay with it because, I mean, you're talking about a guy who probably hasn't reached his potential yet. I mean, really came out in 2020, did a fantastic job getting over 100 tackles and really just being a solid run defender. I mean, and really a guy also that, despite his size, which is a very formidable 6'4", 235-ish kind of size, I mean, can also drop it back into coverage too. So, I mean, you're really getting the whole package out of Jamin Davis. So I like him. I mean, I like the fact that we took a chance and, took him. I mean, again, I feel like Zaven Collins probably would have been the first option, but again, wasn't available.
A lot of people will point to their game against Florida this year and how he was able to basically cover Kyle Pitts when not many other people in the SEC could. So
right.
That definitely helps his cause here. And I anticipate he'll probably be in their starting lineup pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the idea that I've had going into this draft was, I felt like they could probably add another linebacker like on the interior. What's his name? Holcomb really did well for us last season. I kind of felt I don't know, a little disappointed in John Bostic. Thought that we could probably upgrade him. And he made a couple bonehead plays. I can't remember what game it was, but he had some bonehead call where it was like a personal foul where we were going to get the ball. And I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about him, but again, I like having Jamin Davis in there. It just kind of reminds me of really what Rivera was able to do with a guy like Luke Kuechly. And we just kind of hope and pray that we can get some glimmer of what that was when Kuechly was really dominating the league there in Carolina. So I hope that, with everything else in front of him, I mean, with that awesome defensive line, I mean, watch out for every defense in our division or every offense in our division, because I mean, we're going to have a great front seven.
Yeah, that front four is no joke at all. Chase Young, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Matt Ioannidis off the bench is solid as well. That's definitely the strength of that team is that front four. A lot of people thought they might go with an offensive tackle in the first round. They passed, and in their second round pick, they come back with Samuel Cosmi from Texas, who was my number 8 overall ranked player in this class. I love his upside. I love his athletic ability. And I don't think he's, they don't have to rush him into playing time this year with the signing of Charles Leno the other day to a one-year deal. So that's definitely good long-term for Washington to let him, sit and learn. But what do you like about Samuel Cosmi? What do you dislike? And what's his future?
Well, I mean, one good thing about Samuel Cosmi is, I mean, again, like you said, I mean, just his athleticism is great, and he has actually played on both the left and the right side at tackle, and I think it's great that he could sit a year, but he could probably also come in and play some guard. I mean, listen, I mean, they didn't go out, on the street and get Eric Flowers back for nothing. I mean, be quite honest with you, like I didn't really like reacquiring him. I thought it was a waste, but maybe perhaps Leno wasn't really in the cards at that time, and they brought Flowers in, signed him. So I don't know, man. I mean, Cosmi is great. I mean, I like his versatility. I mean, it has some decent size, but I mean, probably one of the more athletic tackles out there, running a 4.8 440 at his pro day, which is just awesome for an offensive lineman. But I really like him. I mean, just overall, he's got some quick feet, uses his hands well. I mean, he needs to improve a little bit, but a lot of these guys do coming into the league. I mean, his potential is pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I love Samuel Cosmi. It would not have hurt my feelings if the Bengals had taken him at that early part of the second round, to be honest. But they went with Jackson Carman instead. So we'll see how that plays out for sure.
Yeah, there were a few of my mock drafts that I actually had Cosmi going in the first round, like there towards the end. So there was certainly a possibility, like after like a very awesome pro day. I mean, for Washington, I think a lot of the fans had Darisaw mocked to them, like 90% of the mocks out there, they had him in the first round. So maybe a little disappointed for some people not taking a tackle early, because is probably one of the biggest, question marks, like, going into this off season, because I'm be honest with you, like, I just don't think it's been their strongest position. So I'm glad that they took Cosmi. I mean, I'm glad that they took a tackle early. So yeah, I mean, I think that they're bound to be, better this season. They're on the offensive line.
Washington had 2 third-round picks. One I really liked. One, was kind of indifferent about. But I'm gonna start with the one I liked first. De'Ami Brown, wide receiver from North Carolina. I thought I carried probably an early second round grade on De'Ami Brown. He was my 30th overall ranked player. I think he's Jamar Chase light in this draft class. I don't think he has the overall skill set of Jamar Chase, but I think they're very similar in what they do and how they attack the football. Is he replacing Kelvin Harmon? Probably.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that they've picked up over the past couple of years that the jury's still out on whether or not it's Harmon or Gandy Golden. I mean, these guys really haven't shined yet. So who's to say that De'Ami Brown isn't going to come in and be that next great receiver? I mean, it's definitely interesting because I mean, after the signing of Curtis Samuel, I really didn't think that, they were going to address the wide receiver position that early in the draft. I mean, maybe towards the somewhere on the third day. But they definitely got great value in Brown. I mean, having back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons there for North Carolina. I mean, did very well. I mean, he's a very aggressive receiver. He's got some speed to separate. He does well. So I mean, I kind of like him. Just kind of be put in the mix and let these guys compete. Let them compete for that third or fourth receiver position.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've got a budding star with Terry McLaurin. You spent the big money on Curtis Samuel, so it's not the biggest need, but maybe the value they felt was just too great there. Maybe they made that. Maybe they had a grade on De'Ami Brown, kind of like I did, and were surprised that he was still there in the third round. Their other third round pick, Benjamin St. Juste, the corner from Minnesota, a Canadian-born player. He's a long arm corner, not the most athletic guy speed wise, but his three cone really good and his short shuttle really good at his pro day. Thought he had a good week at the Senior Bowl too. How does Benjamin St. Juste fit on this Washington roster?
Well, first of all, I mean, just kind of looking at this draft as a whole, I feel like corners were really reached on, like in this draft a lot. Like, just kind of, whenever you get a chance, just kind of look at those guys and like how far they went up, and guys that were bigger, that had a fantastic pro day. All of those guys ended up, really getting drafted based on size and potential. And so, I mean, with St. Juste, I mean, hey, he's got a lot going for him. I mean, his size is pretty nice. I mean, you get a guy who's 6'3", 200 pounds. I mean, that's solid, man. That's the kind of corner that, first of all, I really like. I think a lot of teams like, because I mean, you want to have a guy who's big enough in order to be physical, to jam people, at the line of scrimmage, and also just match up well against some of these, taller receivers. I mean, there is a part of me, and maybe I'm just, thinking lofty here, but I mean, when you go back to this past playoffs where Washington was facing Tampa Bay, I mean, Tampa Bay's got some very tall wide receivers, and our corners were just exposed. They couldn't handle the bigger, taller wide receivers. So they really needed to get a guy who was at least 6'1", 6'2", and St. Juste really he comes in and he could immediately impact that defense. I mean, I know both of us would agree that this is probably a reach, but I mean, I like him. And the other thing too is what if perhaps, say, his position in the league isn't going to ultimately be corner? Maybe it's going to end up being safety. Who knows? But I mean, we did get a good athlete that maybe we could move around, wherever we need. I mean, he's probably going to, contribute on special teams first, but he'll work his way on the defense there somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. St. Juste is he's a quality player, but I'm maybe a round or two higher than what I would have gone here. But maybe he's not available in the fifth round. I don't know. So if you see your guy you like, you go get him. Is the way it's always been said to me. We'll skip ahead of a few rounds here because I want to. I'll come back to the fourth, fifth round guys. But
sure,
we talked about their front seven being deep. And it is, but they drafted a couple guys there in the seventh round that I was much higher on probably than the consensus, especially Shaka Toney. He's a guy. I mean, he's an athletic, freak, he produced more, or had more sacks this year than Odafe Owe, but yet Shaka Tony available here in the 7th round. Also, William Bradley King is another that tested well. Arkansas State transfer to Baylor, had a good week at the Senior Bowl as well. Him and Tony both, I thought, were solid down in Mobile, yet both available in the 7th round. Long shots to make the roster for sure, but there's stuff to like there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking into Shaka Tony a little bit, and one of the interesting factoids about him is, he came into Penn State really a scrawny little kid. He wasn't even 200 pounds coming into Penn State, and then he ends up putting on over 40 pounds there, and again, I not going to be a defensive end in any way, really. I mean, I feel like he's going to end up being a linebacker, outside linebacker, maybe even an interior guy. I mean, but it's going to take him some time really to find his spot there on the roster. So, I mean, I like him. I mean, I just again, I saw him being drafted much earlier. At least a couple rounds higher than where he was taken there in the 7th. um, it was kind of shocking that he was there. I mean, and I think some people may not like this, but I mean, sometimes you need to draft best player available, like whoever it is. And that's definitely who they end up taking there in Shaka Tony. Kind of like you said, athletic freak. I mean, 4'5", 40, 39-inch vert. I mean, just a, fantastic athlete. So, I mean, maybe what you're trying to do there is, have an excellent body, maybe that you can use there on special teams. And there's really nothing wrong with getting a special teams guy there on the 3rd day in the 7th round.
Right. Like I said, I liked him and William Bradley King both, but they're long shots for this roster. But that's why you have the expanded practice squad now, and with everybody cutting 35 players at one time per team, you can sneak those guys through the practice squad fairly easily now.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like, I didn't really understand getting more edge rushers. Like, that really didn't even register to me, like, in this draft. I mean, there are other positions that I think a lot of people were really curious as to why they didn't draft, like quarterback. We could have drafted a quarterback. And so they decided not to do that. They could have gotten somebody, even there in the 7th round. They could have taken Felipe Franks. Somebody. Again, that's worth a 7th rounder to me. I mean, that's not that big of a stretch, because you figure there in the 7th round, you're pretty much just drafting like your favorite undrafted free agent. So, I mean, and that's kind of how it is. I mean, so if you got a guy who's maybe your 350th player that you just really love, I mean, who cares? In the 7th round, who cares? You just kind of take whoever you really like, so you don't have to fight with all the other teams in the league. And that's really what, that 7th round is. So, yeah, I mean, I was just kind of a little disappointed. The other thing, too, is I thought that they maybe could have gotten a running back in the 7th round. Not an edge rusher. I mean, it really didn't make any sense. Why are you going to get more edge rushers? Get a guy that can maybe be like, just your change of pace back. I mean, somebody maybe that could, take some kick or punt returns. I mean, that to me would have made a little bit more sense there, like in the 7th round, a quarterback or running back. But I don't know how I feel about some of those picks there, in the late round. So I know we got the long snapper. You want to talk about the long snapper?
We'll come back to the long snapper, and I'll ridicule that mercilessly here in a minute. But you mentioned running back, and Washington only signed one undrafted free agent, and it was a running back, Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo, a very highly productive player, tested poorly at Buffalo's pro day, but that could be that mix it up kick returner running back that you were talking about, and you get him as a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's really ever returned kicks, but I mean, what was that one game where he ran forever? He ran what, like just video game-esque numbers, and I can't remember
I
like
feel like, was it against Kent State?
I don't know who it is,
I watched the game. I remember watching the game.
But what was it, like 300 and
No, he was over 400. He was a 20 yards away from breaking the record. His coach didn't know he was 20 yards away from breaking the record, so he pulled him out. And and like 2 plays later, the backup running back, all they did was hand the ball off, and the backup running back ends up picking up the yardage on 2 plays that he would have needed to break the record. It was a sad day for college football, but yeah.
Yeah, I had to look it up, so I cheated a little bit. So yeah, it was Kent State 70-41,
Yeah.
which almost looks like a basketball score. 36 rushes, 409 yards. I mean, that's just sick, and 8 touchdowns in that game. That's just wild. But the cool thing about getting Patterson is he's a local kid, from like the Maryland area. So why not? Bring the local kid in and just have him, have him compete. So, and I do feel like he has a good shot of making this roster too.
That was the other thing. He had 8 touchdowns in that game. That tied a record that had stood since 1989. He needed 1 more touchdown to break the record, and the coach had no idea that he had that. I don't know. It sucks for him. Well, let's get back to the mission at hand here. Another reach pick here, but at a position where he's probably going to at least be the number 2 tight end, just based off the depth chart here and lack thereof, I should say. It's John Bates from Boise State. Not a great athlete, obviously, but solidly productive for the Broncos.
Well, I mean, I think he's a decent athlete. I mean, if you kind of go back into his history a little bit, and his pro day was okay. I mean, it was average, more or less. I mean, had a decent broad jump, was able to jump 10 feet there, and 3-cone was good. But solid kid. I mean, I actually had a chance to sit down with him and interview him before the draft. So it's a pretty decent interview because I mean, kind of get a general feel as to who he is, and again, I feel like he's a solid all-around tight end, kind of like a throwback tight end, so to speak. But really, what you're going to want out of him is being that blocker to hopefully, kind of, go with Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is your receiver. John Bates is going to be your blocker. You have both of those guys out there at the same time, and I just feel like it works well, like to pair those guys up. But the interesting thing, though, I think I want to say Logan Thomas is just he's also in a contract year, so depending on how John Bates develops, if he does really become like a better receiver, like when they put them side by side, like in practices, I mean, who knows if he may end up taking over for Logan Thomas, but I don't know. I'm not trying to suggest that, but I mean, it's certainly possible. Like if Logan Thomas, screws up, that John Bates is there. But the other interesting thing too about the tight end position is they brought in Sammis Reyes. And I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but I mean, he was an international. He was an international guy out of Chile, and goes out there and has a pro day. I want to say with Florida, and just demolishes his pro day. And right after he kills that pro day, Washington signs him like fast. They're like, we need this guy. We need to make sure that we get an excellent athlete out there at tight end. And boom, they bring that guy in. I mean, Reyes hasn't really played football too much, probably for maybe like 5 years or something, but an excellent athlete, huge size, potential is there. He just needs to continue to learn the game. So I mean, you get a guy like him that maybe ends up being on your practice squad for a little bit. You'll have him, and maybe hopefully bring him in as well. So I feel like there's a lot of good things happening at the tight end position there for Washington. So we'll see what comes of everything. But as far as John Bates, I mean, for everything that he's done there at Boise State, I feel like he's going to he easily is kind of a plug and play guy there in the pros. So because it's not like you're putting him in out there to be like your number one receiver or anything. He's going to be out there mainly as a blocker, and I think he does a pretty good job of that.
The good thing about Reyes as well is because he's an international player, he doesn't even count against the practice squad limits so you basically have a roster exemption whether he's any good or not. The Bengals had Moritz Boehringer on their practice squad for like 5 years before they finally just said, "Okay, you're terrible. You were a great story and everything, but we're tired of paying your lunch bill, I guess." Two more draft picks that I want to just get your quick thoughts on.
Sure.
Derek Forrest, the safety from Cincinnati, and Zach Wilson's go-to guy at BYU, Dax Milne. Is there anything there?
Well, Forrest. Let's talk about Forrest there. I mean, I, I think that the safety position is interesting for Washington because Landon Collins goes down with an injury last year, and people are wondering, well, who's going to step up and really do well? And really didn't even expect, but boom, like Cameron Curl, late round pick, comes in and has a great season for them, gets just a handful of interceptions, really comes in and does a fantastic job. So some people really, I don't know. I think the fan base is kind of willing to move on from Landon Collins, in my opinion. And it could be that what's going to happen is Landon Collins is going to, move away, here soon. They do still have him listed as a starter coming back, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be out there all the time. I don't know if I don't think he's going to be there for much longer. Is basically what I'm getting at. So, Derek Forrest coming in to me really makes a whole lot of sense. But I don't see him. I mean, I think he's a solid player. I mean, we could certainly use him maybe in the run game. He does a great job there. It was a tackling machine there for Cincinnati. Cincinnati really did a fantastic job last year, just all around, everywhere, like their entire team really. And getting part of that secondary that was really good in Forrest. I like him. I like being able to bring him in and probably end up eventually taking over for Landon Collins because, again, I don't think that he's going to be there for much longer.
And finally, sixth round pick, Cameron Cheeseman, long snapper. I'm sorry, you draft a long snapper. It's just don't do it. I say the same thing about kickers, punters, whatever. Just don't do it.
Well, first of all, we didn't have a long snapper on our roster.
I don't.
So, and I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I'm with you 100%. We didn't have a long snapper on our roster, and so the question is, well, who are you going to get? You're going to get Fletcher and Cheeseman. Those are your two dudes that you could possibly get. And Fletcher goes to Carolina. I think he was the first taken in the draft. And so after that, maybe Washington was just kind of like, we need to make sure that we get our guy just to be on the safe side. But why would they take him where they took him? They could have waited, they could have waited.
3 7th round picks, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you could have waited a little bit. And what other team really needed a long snapper? Who's going to draft a long snapper? So I think, there were only 2 long snappers drafted, Thomas Fletcher and Cameron Cheeseman. So, I don't know what else to say.
It must have been a down year for specialists altogether because there was 2 long snappers taken, but only 1 kicker and 1 punter.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, long snappers are people too, man, and it is a very specialized position. I know people kind of scoff at it, but it's not really always the easiest thing to do. So, I mean, you're trying to get a guy who's very athletic that could snap the ball and run down the field. And it's not always that easy. And plus, they got to be able to block a little bit too. So people kind of shrug at it, but I mean, you got to get an athletic guy. And Washington decided not to re-sign their long snapper, so it's just they just get a younger guy that they can pay a little less to, that more or less is does the same deal. So um, we kind of skipped over Dax Milne. Do you still want to talk about him or no?
He's not making a roster. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that high on him. I mean, he was kind of borderline draftable in my opinion. Decent. I mean, I think he was on like I want to say the Bolitnikov. Like, was he on like the finalist or something? I can't remember if he was a
that's
semi or a finalist or something.
I,
Um,
I'm not. I can't remember who the final.
uh,
I do. I knew who was
let
winning
me.
it. So
Oh yeah. He was a semi-finalist. So I mean, he's okay.
that's
You
sad.
know,
I have a vote and I don't even remember. That's
Yeah,
bad.
he Dax Milne was a semifinalist, but I mean, I think a lot of these, awards sometimes are because of the stats. And BYU just they had a great offense. I mean, a lot of that has to do with like a fantastic offensive line and obviously the number 2 overall draft pick in Zach Wilson. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's really, like you said, I don't know if he's going to make this roster. So he may end up somewhere else before it's all said and done.
All right. Last question on draft related question here. You mentioned it. They bring in no quarterbacks via either the draft or free agency. Fitzmagic is going to be the man to start the season. Taylor Heineke won a playoff game last year. You have Kyle Allen, Steven Montez. It doesn't. Those are
No,
non factors.
no.
So when are you starting to work on the 2022 quarterback class there, Jimmy?
I don't know, dude. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that the fan base really wants Taylor Heineke to do well. I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly, but he comes in and really just makes things fun for the fans. It's like you get this guy, literally, you sign him off the street. I mean, dude is taking classes and I think for like a master's or something, and he gets a call and he's like, "Hey, you want to?" And they're like, "Hey, you want to come play football again?" It's like, "Where?" Oh well, not too far. I mean, just kind of right around the corner. Up here for Washington football team. So, and he comes up here and I think a lot of his teammates and the fans really want him to succeed. I mean, and let's just face it. I mean, Fitzpatrick he's old, man. I think a lot of people thought that he was going to retire. He's not the future. And so the hope is that maybe perhaps some of the magic will rub off on Heineke a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe at the beginning of the season, it might end up being Heineke as a starter. But yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, I mean, if it's not Taylor Heineke, they're going to have to draft somebody next year. So we'll see who that is. I mean, maybe it's the quarterback out of Cincinnati, but I don't know. I mean, uh,
Long way to go.
I'm not as confident.
Long way to
I'm
go.
not as confident about the quarterback position. Is basically what I'm getting at. I mean, some of the other pieces are starting to come together, but that last piece of that quarterback, which is obviously the most crucial position, I'm just not as confident. I guess I should say with that. So.
Okay, well, that leads me to this. Do you think that they made the same phone call that Chicago did to try to go up, and or they wouldn't have been able to because of the Giants probably? But
Um,
is that a call you think they made to maybe to try to get Fields?
Well, I mean, I love Fields. Be quite honestly, like I had him really as my second best quarterback, at least. I mean, I think that the Zach Wilson fan club's probably going to hate me for it, but I mean, I really like Justin Fields, and I think I don't know. The sting of Dwayne Haskins is still there, who was also an Ohio State quarterback and who obviously didn't really work out there, with Coach Rivera in Washington. And they Rivera literally put put Haskins in positions. He's like, I want him to stay out there. I want him to stay out there. I want him to learn. And if he can't learn, we need to just get rid of him. So I think that just kind of stings a little bit still. And really just the whole position of quarterback. I mean, I think so many people here are just hesitant, and they're not as I'll just say ballsy. They don't have really the guts as some of these other teams do to trade up. And kudos to the Bears for trading up and really landing Fields. I mean, I thought that that one pick there of them trading up, it had the remnants of the Trubisky draft there, because they traded a whole lot to go up, I think, one spot in that draft and get their man, which obviously wasn't the best choice, but that's what we have hindsight for. But yeah, I think it's a lot different here. Justin Fields is a whole lot better quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky ever was. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to really work out for him. He's going to end up being the starter there for sure. I mean, yeah.
Probably sooner rather than later.
Right.
All right, last question. I'll let you go. Playoff team last year. They returned to the playoffs this year, you think? Or what's your projection for the 2021 football team?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you, let's just look at the division as a whole. Eagles. I don't worry about the Eagles. Eagles are in disarray right now. I mean, there may be a couple players there that will give you some fits. Hurts is going to really take control there. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have to contain him. But again, Eagles, they don't worry me so much. The Giants, starting to worry me a little bit. Probably it's kind of a toss up between the Giants and the Cowboys for me. I mean, the Cowboys really had pretty decent draft there up at the top. I mean, getting some of the best defensive players in this draft. So if they're able to take those guys that they were able to draft and really just shut our offense down, I mean, that's going to be tough. So I think it's totally possible for them to get back there. I mean, whether it's a 9-8 season, because now we got 17 games, but I don't think that we win any more than 9 games. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough between those 3 teams, the Giants, because I mean, you got a lot of people coming back from injury. You got Saquon Barkley coming back from injury. You got Cowboys quarterback coming back from injury. So, I mean, everybody's coming back. Hopefully, so who knows how it's going to, pan out. But obviously there's a whole lot more, I want to say, stability at a lot of crucial positions there for Washington. The defensive line is probably one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. Offensive line improved this offseason too. So, if your big men up front are improving year in and year out, I mean, you're going to be competing. So, and I like it. I like what they're doing. It's just the big question there for Washington is that quarterback spot. So, because they need to get hot. They need to get hot doing something. So, we'll see how everything comes together. But I do think it is a strong possibility. I mean, some people might say, Jimmy, you're just a homer. No, I'm not just a homer. I'm a realist too. So, I mean, winning 8 or 9 games is it's been the whole NFC East, man. Whoever ends up getting that 9th game, at least this season, is probably going to end up winning the division again. So it's just kind of how it's going to work. So, but yeah, that's where I see us heading. So I don't think that we go that anyone gets a win in the playoffs, getting there. But I mean, getting there, being able to win the division, at least you got something to, hang your head high for. So,
yeah, I mean, they got there. I don't think many people expected them to win a playoff game last year. So,
yeah, no one expected us to even get to the playoffs. I mean,
and the only team that almost beat Tampa Bay in the playoffs. So there you go.
Hey, and the only player to almost do it, Taylor Heinicke, and that's the reason why that's the reason why the fan base is just they're excited to have him back. I mean, like right after that game, it's like we need to re-sign him. We need to re-sign him, and thankfully they did. Man, they brought him in, they brought him back, and um, I'm happy that he's back because I mean I want to give him the opportunity to go out there and prove that it wasn't a fluke.
All right, Jimmy, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go now. Tell everybody where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Draft Guy Jimmy. I do a lot of my work on NFLDraftDiamonds.com and our YouTube channel. You can go on both of those pages, check out a lot of great material that we've done. I mean, started to get into our 2022 stuff. I mean,
Too soon.
um, it is a little too soon, but I'm slowly getting into it, Brian. So it's not a full force thing just yet, but slowly getting that. I mean, you figure a lot of the holdovers from last season for us that just kind of either opted out or didn't have a season. That board is still there. So like 800 of our small schoolers that were on like our top 1,000 list ended up being carried over pretty easily. So working on that board right now. That's one of the biggest things that I'm doing. We'll be doing a whole lot more interviews here soon for anybody, whether it be small school, big school. We'll do a lot of those, here soon. So
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
sure, man. You're welcome. It's been great.
That was draft guy Jimmy Williams there, NFL Draft Diamonds. He is one of the better prospect interviewers out there, folks. Go to NFLDraftDiamonds.com, check out his work. And as always, here you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell and get notified whenever we go live with these videos. We got a few more, I believe, potential of these draft reviews coming up here in the next week or so. And but I'm gonna start posting more regular content here to the YouTube channel or to the channel in general here. Maybe prepping some other stuff, just talking draft news and all that. But as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft and go to Facebook, YouTube, Deep Fried Draft. That's where you're going to find all the good stuff from me. That's going to do it for tonight. Until next time.